So hi, everyone. Welcome to session 2 of the Empathy Circle Facilitators Training. This is session 2 of the 4-session training. And session 2 focuses primarily on practicing introduction, doing an introduction to the Empathy Circle. If you're a facilitator and you're bringing people together for an Empathy Circle, you need to do an introduction to explain to them what it is, kind of, and how it works. So you'll be practicing that. And then actually practicing doing facilitation. So we'll go into breakout rooms, you'll practice doing your intro there, and you'll be practicing, you'll get a chunk of time, maybe 20 minutes or maybe longer, depending on how many people in your group, to practice facilitating. And but let's start with just check-ins. So, your name, where you are, maybe how you're feeling, and if you have a question about Empathy Circle facilitation. And I guess if you had a buddy call, if there's anything you want to say about that, you can, but try to keep it short. Try to keep it within 30 seconds or so. So, and I'm going to call on people to kind of make it efficient. So Neil, can you go first?
Yes, so good evening, good morning, whatever time it is where you are. Neil Lewis, the empathy coach. Yes, really looking forward to today's session again. I guess a bit apprehensive, still not quite settled on a topic for my for my empathy circle yet, but I'm sure I'll get there as we start. And had a really lovely call with Rosa, my buddy, this morning. So yeah, which was just really great to catch up with Rosa and share some thoughts about empathy. So that's me.
Thanks, Neil. Claudia?
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all those wonderful faces. Had a great time with Karen on our empathy call, and just really enjoying it. Both of us feeling kind of vulnerable about what the next stages are, and just really looking forward to it. And in this world, we need it so much. So I can't wait to get involved.
Thanks, Claudia. Rick?
Hello, everyone. I've been feeling some anxiety move through me today. So I'm coming, just settling into the space. And I did not yet connect on an empathy buddy call.
Okay, great, thank you. Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm in the UK, so it's 6:10. It's coming towards the end of the day because I've got up early, so I'm feeling a little tired, but also always feel very energized by Empathy Circles. So I'm looking forward to this and looking forward to the challenge of practicing. As Claudia said, we had a lovely buddy call, and we actually practiced a bit of empathy, a bit of active listening. We sort of used the process in our call, so that was useful as well. Yeah, really looking forward to tonight. Thank you.
Great.
For today or this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ben?
Thanks. Hi. Again, I'm Ben. I'm speaking from Scotland. I am feeling happy to be back.
I'm having trouble hearing Ben. Is there?
Oh, right.
Could you speak up a little, Ben?
Yeah, let me change my mic settings.
I could hear you before. It was just a little soft.
Oh, okay. I put my mic settings up, so maybe that will. It looks like that's making some difference. Yeah, looking forward to the evening.
Okay, great. Nailing.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Nilang from Berkeley, California. I feel excited to learn new things. Also feeling very calm and peaceful this morning. Thank you.
Thanks. Rosa? We're not hearing you, Rosa. Oh, now we're hearing you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Rosa from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK. Feeling a bit jittery and rushed because I had to take my cat for an operation this afternoon. So I've just rushed back from that. So I need to arrive and ground. But I had a lovely call with Neil this afternoon, and we didn't really do the proper empathy listening. We just had a really good chat and we're sharing lots of ideas and enthusiasm.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rosa. Zainab.
Hello, Zainab. I'm originally from India, but I live in Fiji for now. And I didn't manage to connect with my empathy buddy, but I hope to catch up on that this week. I'm coming into the call a bit, I'm still a bit sleepy and waiting for the tea to kick in. I had a topic in mind, which I wanted to discuss, but I'm realizing that I've totally forgotten what it is. So please, T, do help me.
Okay, thank you. Jamie.
Hi, y'all. Please excuse any noise in the background. I have a puppy that my husband's playing with. I am here excited to be here. I didn't connect with Zainab, and I apologize for that, but I feel good about having a proposed new president. So that's my relief.
Thanks, Jamie. Anita?
Hi, everyone. So I'm calling in from Montreal, where it's just shortly after 1 p.m. and it's unseasonably warm in Montreal. So everybody's in a good mood this time of year with this beautiful weather. I'm coming into the call feeling a bit of tension around knowing in my head how great this is going to be. And at the same time, just like before getting on the call saying, oh my God, these 2.5 hours, I really need them for work. So I have to like get over that struggle because I know it's going to be worth it.
Thanks, Anita. Anne?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite excited and a little bit apprehensive. And I'm in southwest of England where it's early evening, 6:10, and looking forward to the evening.
Great. Dean?
Hi, I'm in the southwest of England too. I failed to hook up with my buddy Rick. I apologise. We'll be knocking on with that this week for sure. And I'm looking forward to what's going to be happening this evening.
Great, thank you. Edwin?
Yeah, feeling pretty good here. San Francisco Bay Area, and doing all the, I'm the man behind the curtain. So doing all the technical stuff, getting you all into groups, kind of keeping busy. So that's me.
Okay, and Bill?
Well, I'm feeling exhausted from all the election stuff, I find. And I'm excited and I'm feeling a little tense, but I like it because I go kayaking, and when I feel tense and I'm going out in the water, I know I have proper respect for it. So I'm feeling a little anxious, but I think I'll rise to the challenge. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, and for me, so I'm Lou, and I'm in Northern California, and I'm feeling a combination of relief about the election, and then also some anxiousness because we're not out of the woods yet, and you know, there's an awful lot of people who didn't vote for the winner, and so you know that's a reality that's not going away, and there's some kind of bridge that has to be built there, and this kind of activity that we're doing here is actually the kind of thing, the exact thing I did in my hometown, which was setting up a weekly time for empathy circles to help bridge social and political divides. So I did that for a year. Yeah, and so that's not going to be easy. And so I'm very heartened and excited that all of you are here wanting to learn about this, because as someone said, Anita, or someone said, we need this so much in the world right now. So I'm grateful for all of you being here. So we're going to break out into breakout circles in a minute. Edwin will be doing that for us. And in the empathy circles, you'll have like a 5-minute time to practice your an empathy circle introduction. And actually each breakout facilitator will be handling it however they want. So, but you will do some combination of practicing the intro to the circle and then having a chance to facilitate using whatever topic you would like. I want to acknowledge that in the feedback form that people filled out, there were questions about, you know, how do I deal with, like if someone is saying something that is upsetting me emotionally, you know, how do I stay centered as a facilitator? And also, what if somebody says something, you know, maybe I'm not upset, but what if it's just a really hot circle, like, you know, there's really strong differences of opinion, or people who aren't able to listen, or different kinds of challenges. How do you deal with that? And that is something we're going to be doing explicitly in the next class and the class after that, which is continuing your empathy circle facilitation practice. And when you do that, having the opportunity to have the instructor or the breakout facilitator introduce the kinds of things, some of the difficulties that happen during a circle, like someone not being able to listen, or someone not following the rules, or someone objecting to the process, or something like that. So you will have choice about those difficulties, you know, like, do you want them or not? And do you want them like at a level 5 or level 1? So you'll have some control over that. But that is part of this training, and starting next week, you'll get a chance to experience that if you would like, or practice with that if you would like. Are there any questions before we go into breakouts, or anything that the other instructors want to add?
I'll have a quick comment. Just when I had totally forgot about the election, when Biden gave his acceptance speech, on the screen was, "The people have chosen empathy." So it was really promoted big so I think what we're doing here really fits into you know, the sort of the change that is happening, and there's a real interest, I think, for the work that we're doing here because of that. I mean, this was like national news, so I think it's, yeah, what we're doing here is really going to help with that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, anything else? All right, breaking out then.
Okay, so we're breaking out into groups, and we're going till let's see, how long do we go for? Till the top of the hour, 12 o'clock our time,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And so we'll have half an hour for a debrief, and then okay, and so I create all the rooms, and the group that so it'll be Bill, Lou, and Anne, and myself, and our group will actually stay here in this weight room. So here we go. All the rooms are opening. Right, Neil. That's strange. Jamie, were you able to go into the room? Oh, there we go. I was wondering. Okay. Okay, so this circle is being recorded, and
so no pressure then, Edwin.
Yeah, no pressure. You know, reveal your deepest, darkest secrets. Spread it out to the world. So we have 25 minutes each for the three of you, and you'll start with, and I'll keep time, and you're each going to be a facilitator. So you'll give the how-to, you know, how to take part in an empathy circle. You know, just present that to us as if we don't know, and then set the topic, set the time limit, and facilitate the circle. This circle, there's no, you know, challenges. I mean, it's not people trying to disrupt you. It's just, just a comfortable, easy empathy circle. We'll be doing challenges in the next 2 ones where you can say, hey, I want to really, a little bit of a challenge. So people will kind of try to, bug you a little bit to make it a little bit harder. This is just to be familiar with the process. So let me set the timer here. And for the time. So who would like to start? And you'll keep time too as facilitator.
Well, do you know what? Go on, then I'll start.
Okay.
I'm off mute, so I will start. So yeah. So again, no pressure here. All right, and so welcome to everybody. Thank you for agreeing to take part in this empathy circle today. Just wanted to run through a couple of best practice for this circle, just to make sure that we all get the absolute best out of this particular practice, for those of you that have never attended one before. So there's a few things to run through, a couple of roles that we need to think about in the circle. So at any one time, we'll have, there's 4 of us in the room, so we'll have a speaker, we'll have an active listener, and then we'll have 2 silent listeners who'll be supporting and observing. For the speaker, when it's the speakers, whoever agrees to go first as the speaker will ask somebody in the circle to listen to them and allow that person to agree to listen to them. And then the speaker has an opportunity to talk about whatever it is that they want to say about the particular topic that we'll be talking about, what comes to them. The speaker can share as much or as little as they wish to, and there'll be a time limit on the amount of time that each speaker will speak for, and we'll set that to 5 minutes just to make sure that we get everybody has the opportunity to share in the circle, and I'll keep an eye on the time for everybody. For the speaker, the 5 minutes is yours, so it's however you would like to use that. So you can use that to speak. If you want to use that time to sit and allow us all some silent reflection alongside you, again, that's absolutely fine. You can let the facilitator, myself, know how you'd like to spend that time, or if you'd like to relinquish your time and move on to the next person, that's absolutely fine. And typically whoever's been listening to the speaker would then be the next person to speak. Just something to kind of let us all know that you're happy that you've used your time as the speaker. We would like you to end your time speaking by thanking the person who's listened to you and letting them know that you've fully been heard, if of course you have fully been heard, and hopefully you will be. So that will be the speaker's indication that we're moving on. And then the person who's been playing the active listening role will ask another person in the circle to listen to them, get their permission. And then it's their turn to speak, and same thing, 5 minutes, the topic can roll on, or you can completely go down whatever path you want to go down on that particular topic. That time is yours and it is protected. And the same rules apply if you want to use that time to share as much as you can, you can. If you want to surrender some of that time to the next person, that's fine. If you want some silent reflection, that's absolutely fine. Just probably a little something to remember, to give the active listener the opportunity to offer something back, I'd ask that the speaker just chunk what they're saying a little bit. So say a bit and then pause and allow the active listener to reflect back. If we kind of go on for too long, we're expecting a lot of the active listener then to recall and to offer back to you. So so let's kind of chunk it down if we can. And yes, so anyone have any questions about that? What we'll be doing? No, everybody good? Okay, great stuff. So in a moment then, I'll participate as well, but I'll also be keeping an eye on time. So if you see me looking down, I'm not being ignorant, I'm just keeping an eye on the clock. When we get to minute 4, when there's a minute left, I'm going to put my finger up like that, just so you can see, and that's kind of your 1 minute warning, if you like, that we're getting close to time. So yeah, so that's kind of how we'll do that. The topic, I don't know whether to ask who wants to go first, or whether or not to tell you what the topic is. So I'll tell you what the topic is, and then you can decide if someone would like to go first. So the topic today will be how relevant is empathy to self-development to personal development. So that's the topic, how relevant empathy is to self-development and personal development. And I'm going to offer it out to see if anyone would like to, first of all, volunteer to be our starting speaker and then to ask someone to listen to them.
I'm good with speaking. And
Thanks, Edwin.
You, Neil.
Okay.
Yeah, so the topic of empathy related to self-development was, or self?
Yes.
With empathy, I find that by being heard now, you listening to me, that helps me sort of develop myself to go into exploring what my own thoughts and feelings. So it kind of gives space for that self exploration. So there's sort of two forms of empathy. One is you're empathizing with me, and one I'm sort of you're feeling into me, and I'm feeling into myself too, which would be sort of like self-empathy.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that me offering you that space and giving you that space to talk and to be listened to is actually almost encouraging some self-reflection in you.
Yeah. And I would call it that self-reflection, I would call self-empathy, right? It's like sensing into myself, as I'm speaking now, I'm seeing what sort of arises, feeling my body, what's arising in my body. So I'm sort of sensing, empathizing with myself. And you're empathizing with me helps me to empathize with myself. So I think that empathy is sort of critical. I mean, very helpful for that self-awareness.
Okay, so you see the self-reflection as self-empathy, and it's giving you the opportunity to almost tune into yourself, your body, your feelings, and maybe that there's some permission for you to do that. As I empathize with you, there's the permission for you to almost self-empathize at the same time.
Yeah, and I remember there was a college student at UC Berkeley. We went to a cafe where, talking about empathy, and I just listened to him. Just did empathic listening for like, half an hour, 20 minutes, and at the end he says, "I've never felt so creative and deeply heard in my life." Right? It's like, as I listened to him and sort of reflected, he was able to go deeper and deeper. Usually he would just stop and, kind of give time to the other person, but he was just going deeper and deeper into his own experience. And it was like, oh, wow, this is like, I feel so creative, kind of just sharing all this. So.
Great. So I'm hearing that it's made you recall someone that who perhaps has had a similar experience to this and has engaged in a similar way with you, and perhaps that's enabled him to go deeper and deeper, enabled you to go deeper and deeper into that conversation and that reflective space. So and I get the sense that was quite enjoyable for you.
Yeah, it was meaningful to me that I had contributed to his well-being, right? I felt like, oh, I'd really contributed to him feeling heard, feeling creative, feeling he was able to move deeply into his own inner experience. So it was like also my sense of contributing to his experience.
Great. So actually that what you were offering him back was that you are contributing to his experience and to his exploration at that deeper level, and there's a sense of
contribution.
Contribution. Yeah, excellent.
And sort of a celebration that he was having such a good experience. I was like feeling good about contributing and also celebrating with his celebration. So able to kind of, so it was a good experience.
Great. So again, it's that good experience, and that there's almost a celebratory feeling to contributing to somebody else's experience in that way.
I feel heard. Fully heard.
Excellent. Thank you. And you had a minute left. Excellent. So I'm actually going to just
thinking for this, because we're a small group, short time, maybe you might want to do 3 minutes just as a thought.
Oh, okay.
Because
okay.
other time we won't. Yeah. So.
We've only got 25 minutes, of course. Yeah, okay. So we'll take it to 3 minutes then. And I'll just take a quick time out there, because just something that I perhaps may have been better off mentioning at the beginning. What you will have seen Edwin and I experience there, everybody else in the room, was Edwin sharing, and then it was my responsibility as the active listener to reflect back what Edwin was saying, and just reflect back. There may be some paraphrasing in there, but ultimately my only aim as the active listener is to demonstrate that I have listened to and heard Edwin. I don't need to add anything. I don't need to challenge anything. I don't need to offer my opinion. It's just an opportunity for me to almost be a mirror to Edwin and offer back what I'm hearing from him. So when we talk about active
Can I
listening,
take a time out
yes,
real quick?
yes.
I would suggest that when you say this, that you actually choose someone and say it to them, so that you're using this time to share with someone, get a reflection on that.
Okay, that's a good point. All right, then I'll reset the timer. Okay, so Rick, would you listen to me, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So yeah, really great to hear Edwin reflecting that back, and it really made me think that I perhaps could have added some more instructions around the active listening side of things, and just to make sure that everybody's really clear on that, and that the active listening element is about hearing what that person is saying to you and reflecting that back with accuracy, without adding anything, without changing anything, perhaps room for paraphrasing, but that would be all. It's just acting as that mirror. That's what we mean by active listening.
So I hear you're appreciative of Edwin's suggestion, and in terms of active listening, you want to communicate that the listener is meant to reflect back what's being heard and not add anything additional. Is that?
Yes, that's absolutely it. And this last 5 minutes has been an absolute test in self-empathy, because I very quickly realized that I'd forgotten perhaps a key instruction. But I also need to remember that empathizing with myself is about accepting that I perhaps made that mistake and going back and correcting it, and also appreciating that there is a good reason why I made that mistake, in that this is probably the first time I have ever facilitated this type of empathy circle.
So I hear that you're practicing self-empathy right now, as the realization comes that you would have liked to do more in that particular area of active listening, but you're giving yourself self-empathy right now, is what I hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though it's my topic, it's played quite nicely into my hands here, because it's been a real opportunity for me to experience how the part that empathy plays in development, because I'm learning something new here. I'm trying something new here, and I can judge myself, or I can be kind to myself. And actually, in judging myself, what I would probably do is walk away from this interaction feeling very bad and very guilty, or a failure. And actually empathizing with myself will allow me to bounce back and learn the lesson.
So I hear that in this moment, or in this general time, self-judgment arose, but you're able to choose empathy instead of self-judgment. And that's a much better choice, it sounds like. Did I get that right, or did I add something?
No, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rick. I feel heard.
Nilang, am I saying your name right, Nilang?
Yeah, you are.
Nilang, will you be my listener?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm listening.
Okay. It's nice to hear that idea of self-judgment and self-empathy arise, because I've been going through a lot of anxiety today. And I find that the self-judgment part is the part that adds a lot of pain. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, you're recognizing the anxiety that's arising within you. And you're also recognizing that that anxiety is coming from the self-judgment. So you are identifying and associating with the kind of anxiety that you're feeling it right now. Am I right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to build on what Neil said in my own internal world and be empathize with myself, because even though I've facilitated empathy circles before, in the present moment that I'm in and the experiences that I'm going through with anxiety moving through, sometimes tears are just coming for what seems like no reason. It makes me scared that I won't be able to facilitate well, but I've committed to be here, and I'm here, so.
Yeah, so you are kind of processing what Neil has already said, and you're feeling more emotions, and you are concerned that because of that emotions arising within you, you won't be able to facilitate the empathy circle at best of your capacity. So that's the kind of feeling that you're identifying.
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm concerned that because I'm in need of empathy right now, or in need of like downtime, I've maybe taken on too many things, plus the election. I feel like I just need rest from the election, and recovery in a sense. And so I'm just trying to be kind to myself, but also show up and challenge myself a little bit at the same time, because sometimes it does happen that you're scheduled to do something and you're also going through something,
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is you're feeling overwhelmed, and especially with the election situation, you feel that you need to kind of pause and step back and kind of heal and seek empathy for your own self in order to move forward. I'm hearing more of overwhelming, especially in relation to the current situation.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Can I speak to Edwin?
Listening.
Yes, I feel Empathy Circle can play a huge part in my own self-development, because I have witnessed many times when I listen to other people, I listen with my own judgment. And that prohibits me from understanding someone's perspective. So I'll pause there.
Okay, so you think that the empathy circle can really help you with your own development, because you're noticing that you tend to judge people. I mean, you have when you're instead of just listening, that you tend to judge people sometimes.
Absolutely. And I feel that many times in our world, we have a great solutions to our social and environmental problems. But the real issue is that each one of us are listening to the others with the sense of judgment and not with true sense of empathy. And so if I want to see that change in the world, I have to first of all incorporate the same quality within myself. So I'll pause there.
So you see that there's a lot of to do in the world for problem solving, and that people tend to sort of judge each other, and that really mutual listening is really needed to really hear where people are instead of judge each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I feel like Empathy Circle can serve as a great tool, not only for my self-development, but also at the same time, spreading or establishing the culture of empathy outside. So it's helping myself to grow while helping the society to shift towards empathy.
Yeah, so you're just seeing a real benefit of the empathy circle that can help you to grow, but you see that it can also affect the society. So you're seeing kind of two benefits of the practice there.
Absolutely. And I'll pause there. I feel heard. Thanks,
Okay.
Edwin.
Oh, great. Then I'll speak to Rick, if I might. Yeah, I was just hearing you talk about anxiety, so I want to share my gratitude for you for sharing that. I myself find that when I sort of share my anxiety, which I have plenty, that it's when it's heard by others, it kind of takes it out from inside and kind of brings it out. And so I find the empathy circle very helpful for, just for addressing my own anxiety.
So I hear you saying thank you for me expressing my anxiety, and that in your own experience, Empathy Circle is very, very helpful because you get to express it, and then that can change the feeling after that.
Yeah, it sort of keeps it from being kind of locked in to, kind of moving out into the space and sort of like shared, and it kind of like dissipates the energy of it. It's out there for me, but then it sort of dissipates. It has the space to sort of dissipate, and then actually it kind of creates a sense of more connection too, that kind of start feeling like, oh, I really shared myself, and now I'm starting to feel a bit more connected with everyone.
So by sharing it, I like you use some hand movements. By sharing it, it dissipates or dissolves, I think you said, and you feel more connected to the group that way.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, how does that with self-development with the topic? I think that's it, is when we share our feelings, our felt experience. I would like to get better at it, to be able, I think there's a part of being able to sense and name the feeling. And I think there's a lot for me to do to get better at sensing the quality of the feeling, being able to name it and share it. So it's sort of my growing edge.
So I hear you coming back to the conversation thread of self-development and naming. You're actually naming that naming feelings. Could be, you'd like to maybe improve on that. That could be even a next level maybe.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Do we have time to keep going around in this?
Yeah, we do. I think actually we have, oh wait, how much? Yeah, I think we can go another round, or one more round.
Yeah, well, actually, what time should I be wrapping our session up then, Edwin?
Yeah, I think I have like 2 minutes. So if we do one more, and then we can do a debrief.
Great.
If you want to speak.
Neil, would you be my listener?
Yes, I'd love to.
Well, I liked hearing Edwin's remarks. Makes me feel a little calmer. But in development, I guess, I think I'm just struggling with integrating certain things that I've been learning. I think I realize maybe I'm a little off topic there, but how can, I guess that's where I'm at right now. I'm sort of maybe just needing time to integrate certain things that I've been learning to be able to speak more eloquently about these types of things. It doesn't feel like I can access it right now, you know.
Okay. So, so yeah, I'm hearing that actually Edwin's remarks have helped and have perhaps made you feel a little bit calmer. But perhaps moving into the particular topic, there's potentially still some work to do to integrate some of your learnings at this point that will help it perhaps flow a bit more freely to where you are right now.
Yeah, like I really liked how Edwin was using hand movements and physicality, and that's something that I like to do, is incorporate movement and play, and even singing and things like that, and mix in empathy practices. But lately I felt like I've tightened up. I haven't been able to be in that creative space. Something's tightened up in me. So, but that's sort of something that happens. There's like a tightening and an opening and a tightening.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah. So I'm here. So again, I'm hearing that actually you quite liked that Edwin would gesticulate and perhaps use hand actions, and it's made you recall that actually you're quite creative in your practice of empathy, that perhaps you would bring in gestures and you would even bring in music and song and movement, but it tends to ebb and flow a little bit. Sometimes that tightens up, sometimes that feels quite free and flowing, and other times it doesn't.
Yes, that's it. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. Great.
Okay,
so
we could, thanks. We could take 5 minutes. Neil, if you want to share how that was for you, and then you can get feedback from us, like with the...
Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to judge myself. I'm going to be kind to myself. But yes, just really missing that point about just really explaining what I expect of. I think I was quite focused on what to expect of the speaker, and kind of forgot to articulate what to expect of the listener. So, but you know what? I picked it up quite quickly and rolled with it. So that was good. And thank you, Edwin, because that was a really good point. Just bring it into the circle, make the point in the circle. So that was great. Yeah, it's there's keeping an eye. Obviously, getting the instructions right is one thing. Keeping an eye on the time is another thing. Keeping an eye on the time and active listening at the same time is another thing. But no, on the whole, I enjoyed the experience as much as one could for their first time.
I'll have a comment. The one thing I do say, I do try to send people information, the links on how to Empathy Circle, to sort of prep them for taking part. And then, sometimes sometimes people come, they haven't done it, but ideally they've been prepped a bit beforehand. So
yeah,
I'll say, hopefully you had a chance to see the instructions. In case you didn't, I'll just recap them or something like that. So
okay.
That's something that, that I do sometimes I forget. And the other thing is it's always different. I always forget something, it's off the top of my head, but for somehow it's like, it doesn't seem to matter. It's just like, it's sort of a simple process that you can kind of skip a lot, and people just sort of learn by just observing. And then the other part was, I do try to do like minimal facilitation, time, breaking, and try to do it as I was showing, is do it within the circle. So you're staying within the process. So you kind of like using the process for, any didactic informational stuff.
That was a great tip, Edwin. So yeah, thank you for that. I just I never made that connection, that actually I was the speaker. I had a perfect opportunity to just move it into the circle and make the point in the circle. So yeah, that was really good. Thank you. Rick, Neil Lang, anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to say, I thought you were doing great. I thought you did great. Like, it looked like you had done that like 10 times. Like,
oh, wow.
I mean, I think what Edwin said is helpful, and you adjusted really well too to his insight. So I thought you did really, really good.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that you really well explained the format of Empathy Circle. I think I'm going to actually try and steal some pieces from it when I am
Go for it.
I'm trying to be a facilitator. So thank you.
No, pleasure. Go for it. That's what we're all here for, I think, isn't it? To learn from each other as well as learn for ourselves. So yeah. Thanks, Neelang.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Yeah, it was. I mean, it seems like you're a good, you're experienced facilitator. So there's a sense of groundedness, calmness, you know, connectedness, and just that energy is, you know, calming. I find for, you know, for facilitation.
Thanks.
So okay, then who wants to go next and take over? Okay, go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nilang Gaur. Thank you so much for joining Empathy Circle today. I hope that everyone had a chance to review the instruction for the Empathy Circle, but I'll still actually walk everyone briefly through the format of the Empathy Circle. So in Empathy Circle, we have three main roles. We have an active speaker. So active speaker speaks about whatever feelings, emotions, thoughts arising within themselves. And then we have another role that's an active listener. A listener is the person who is reflecting back from the active speaker. And when the active listener is reflecting back, it's all about mirroring the speaker and not judging or giving opinion or sharing our own ideas. And then we have a passive listener. So the passive listeners are actually witnessing the process. And it is really an important role because as you watch the process, see what arises in you. And when your turn comes up, you may actually share it with the active listener. Once the active listener completes reflecting back, and we are actually providing active speaker 3 minutes of time. Once that 3 minutes is over, the active listener can actually pick another person to speak to, and then that person will also get a 3 minutes. Every time when there is a 1 minute left, I'll actually make a sign of a 1 minute, and then you can wrap up. It's not a concrete time limit. So if you are a little bit over that 3 minutes of time, that's totally fine. And most importantly, if active listener is missing any part, or if I see that the active listener is not very satisfied, I may actually try and provide a feedback. But that's not a form of a criticism. We all are learning as we move through the empathy circle. So today, as you all know, the topic for the empathy circle is why is it in our society that we are so empathetic only to our friends and family, but when it comes to the strangers, we really lack empathy? So what is the reasons behind not having empathy to the strangers? And that's our topic. And I will welcome anyone who wants to actually start sharing their thoughts and idea and pick an active listener.
I'm happy to start, Neelang. Will you listen to me, please?
Yes, yeah, I'm listening. Thank you.
Oh, I love this topic because it's so interesting, and I think a lot of it is to do with the rapport that we already have with people that we know or people that we care about. I think rapport is a key component of empathy, and rapport in so much as feeling connected to the other person. And we are the people that are in our lives, our friends and our families and our loved ones, we're already connected to them. So there isn't that hurdle of rapport to get over.
Yeah. I just want to ask a question before I reflect. You used the word rapport. I'm not familiar with that.
It's the words rapport, and I guess it means it's about relating, and it's about when you're in rapport with somebody, you already have a kind of commonality and a connection with that person. So generally, you would be in rapport with somebody that you perhaps know quite well, or that you already have a relationship with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for explaining that.
It's okay.
So yeah, you actually recognize that the topic really interests you, and you feel that it's by default we are empathetic to people who are in our network that we already have some form of connection with, and our empathy just directly flows into those people who are within our circle.
Yeah, and it's more about the fact that we have things in common with those people. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we will always empathize with them, but why empathy perhaps comes a bit more naturally with people that we know is that we're more likely to agree with them. The people that we are close with, we probably share similar values, similar beliefs, similar opinions. So therefore, it's more likely that we will agree, if you like, with how they're feeling, and therefore find empathy with them a bit more accessible.
Yes, so you are further clarifying that we are by default empathize with people with whom we share more commonality regarding our values, our thoughts, our beliefs. With those people, we always feel empathetic.
I wouldn't say always. I think we can do, and it can be easier to do. I'm conscious of time. I'll probably, in my next bit, maybe talk about when it's difficult with people that we love, because it doesn't always come naturally with people that we love, but it can come more easily when it's value-based, or when it's something that we agree and that we share. And very often we share things with people that we know and that we love.
Yeah, so you're clarifying that it's not always that we feel empathetic among the people that we share the common beliefs and stuff, but it's more frequently that we feel empathetic whenever the people are sharing our belief system, our ideas, and our thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil. I feel heard for now.
Thank you for sharing. May I speak to Rick, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's what Neil said is I strongly resonate with. I feel that in our society, we create these boxes based on our belief system and the people who agree with us. And we only offer empathy to people who fit in those boxes. So I'll pause there.
So I hear you feel a strong resonance with what Neil said. And I heard you describe that in our culture, we create these boxes, and that you feel we only tend to empathize with people who fit into similar boxes.
Absolutely. And the reason why we can't feel empathetic to people who don't fit in those boxes is because we feel that my well-being is only interdependent to people who agree with me or who share common values. We don't really understand the interdependence even with the people who disagree with us, even with the non-human animals, even with the environment. So I feel that it's our culture of individualism that my well-being is separate from the others really causes the lack of empathy.
So I'll repeat that last part. I hear that you feel that this sense of individualism, this sense of creating boxes for each person, cuts us off from this deeper sense of interconnection to everything, which allows empathy to flow. That's the essence of what I got. You said it very well, but that's the essence.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think you described that in a very short sentences, but it's perfect reflection. Thank you. I think my time is over, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. Edwin, would you be willing to listen?
Listening.
God, what was just said about boxes is so potent for me. Like, I'm so sick of the boxes. And it is a beautiful thing that when you come together in these ways, I think that the boxes start to dissolve. So I'll pause there.
Okay, so I'm hearing you're really sick of the boxes, and I mean, it seems like it's very deeply sick of it, and you find that how we come together here kind of transcends those boxes.
Yeah. Those boxes have become very intense. I think in recent years, I identify myself as an INFP because it's my personality type. My heritage is Jewish, so I identify in those ways. But recently, you know, there's been this thing about putting a box on everyone, and in most spaces that I'm in, I go in, based on how I look, people give me the box of white male. And I apologize if I'm going somewhat off topic, but this is the heart to me of something that's being said. This kind of boxing, it's painful. It's very painful, I feel. And the more we can do to loosen up those boxes, it's really important, I think.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that people have these boxes and they're putting you into boxes, and it's painful to be in the box. There's certain ways that you identify being Jewish, and you know, people might be putting you into the box of white male or something like that, and there's a pain to it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're not allowed to identify as a human being. That is considered like detrimental to other issues, and I don't think that it is. We need to be in proportion somehow.
So it's almost like you can't just see our common humanity. You have to be in a box, and you're just kind of seeing a problem with that.
Yeah, I
don't know if that's the word. I just brought, you didn't say common humanity, but that's, you know, it would sound like maybe that's not quite right.
It's like, for example, there was a meme that said, you know, only a white man would decide, considering time, what we just had with time, the time change, only a white man would consider cutting off one part of the cloth and taping it on the end and think that he did something, right? Which is something that I always agreed with. I've always been attuned to those kinds of ways, but recently when I saw it, I'm like, oh man, that's why it hurts so much when people put me in that box, because it feels like they're putting me in this horrible box. It's not like, yeah, you fit in this box and we honor you. No, it's you fit in this box and you're to blame, or something like that.
Yeah, so you're put into a box where you're to blame and where you're to be judged. And so that's probably the pain of being blamed and judged. Even though you had some sort of resonance with those boxes, sounds like initially, but then now you're being put into them when there's judgment.
No, it's more like I had resonance with this idea that it's silly to try to change time. That this is you know, that from the indigenous perspective, this is just white man's silliness, white man's insanity, right? And I always resonated with that. I always thought it was insane as well. Like a lot of things in our culture, I feel are insane. But in today's context, when I saw that meme again, I realized now in today's world, with these boxes so tight upon us, now I read that same meme and I'm like, oh man, that's why it hurts so much when someone tells me, you're a white man, you know?
Oh, sorry, you had resonated with some of these memes about, oh, that's, about the changing time, unlike the Native Americans who time just maybe just sort of flows. But then now you're put into the box and you're that person who being judged as that person that did that, created that.
Yeah. That's it. I'm not. You're not seen as the person you are, but how someone else puts you into a box, and that maybe that's why it becomes hard for people to empathize. That mental thing that happens when you put people into boxes or judgments or labels or whatever.
Yeah, when you put people into boxes and labels, you don't see them anymore, and then there's that pain of sort of disconnection of not being seen for who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we each have a soul expression, in my opinion. We're each unique, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah. So you'd really like to be seen for who you are, and each person to be seen for their soul, who they are in their soul. So, okay, then I'll speak to Neil.
Yes, listening.
Yeah, so the difficulty of connecting with people we don't know. We set up this empathy tent. I used to set it up in Berkeley before COVID. And it was like whoever wanted to come could come and sit and just be heard, sort of like we're doing here. And I think that, and then at that point, when there was a clear structure of how we're going to relate, I was going to be a listener. It was very easy to kind of connect with people, to overcome those different barriers. Because whoever sits there, I'm just going to see them, hear them for whoever they are, and hear them to their satisfaction. So, yeah,
So I'm hearing that the topic of empathizing with people we don't know is taking you back to the empathy tents that you used to do before COVID, and where anyone was able to come in and anyone could depend on some active listening, and anyone could be heard, and actually whether you knew them or not didn't matter, because there was the tent and there was the rules or guidance around how to use that tent that made it not matter that we didn't know people or not.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. They could be on the far left, on the far right, or in the middle, or whatever they are politically, socially. It was just the fun of hearing who they are and who they are personally, and what they're, what's going on for them. So there was sort of a equality of experience just hearing them. So, but there's something about a structure that this is how we're going to relate. It kind of helps to have an agreement. And I think that's part of the empathy circle. We have an agreement of how we're going to relate. And what's difficult is we're coming into a situation, there's no agreement, and people are jostling, and so maybe we need a big cultural agreement that we're going to have an empathy. Life is an empathy circle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally hear that. You might, like you say, you might have people on the far left, on the far right, and actually, what the structure of an empathy circle does is it brings some equality, and you've seen that in the empathy tents, and maybe that's what we need in the world. We need a structure of an empathy circle to bring that equality, regardless of where a person sits or is or feels.
Yeah, and there's something about an agreement we have this agreement that this is how we're going to relate. It's like when we disagree, like how we're going to relate, then it becomes a big battle. And it can be even your family, right? You're talking about empathy in the family. Families can be totally dysfunctional, and people don't listen. So with that, yeah, I'll end.
Yeah, so it's about the agreement. It's about having that, it's not just the structure, but having everybody agree to that structure so that we adhere to that structure. And, you know, we talk about actually with, yes, it's not always the case that we empathize in families, because there can be very dysfunctional families out there as well.
Yeah, I feel very heard. Thanks.
Thanks, Edwin. Rick, would you listen to me, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, just following on from what Edwin was saying and what I was saying earlier. Yeah, I know it's not the case that we always empathize with people that we care about, and I think there's a couple of things here for me, is that we don't always agree with the people that we care about and the people that we love, and actually when we don't agree with those people, it speaks to our self-esteem. We don't like it when we don't agree with people that we care about. We don't really care if we disagree with people who we don't know or we don't care about. It's, I've got my opinion, you've got yours, but I think when it's people that we know and they don't agree with us or we don't agree with them, that feels very uncomfortable.
So I hear you highlighting the discomfort that is felt when you don't agree with someone you are close to. Is that the essence of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that, I think because it speaks to us on that what we're always craving in any relationship that we have, I think, is validation. And when we feel invalidated by strangers, we can perhaps deal with that a bit better. But when we feel invalidated by people that people that we love and people that love us, that's when I think it speaks to us on a different level and makes us question ourselves. Yeah, I'll stop it there.
I think what I hear you saying is that we all want validation, and then when we can't receive it from someone close to us, that's more challenging. And I heard you say something about self-esteem, but I might have missed exactly what you said there.
Yes, yeah, because we're more likely to question our beliefs and our opinions when somebody that we care about is questioning them. I think we're less like if a stranger is questioning our beliefs. Well, I don't think that has the same, or it can be easier to contend with when someone that we care about questions our beliefs. That's when I often think that there's a little voice in the head that says, am I right? Or is this the right thing for me to think about? Because normally we agree and now we're not. So actually, is it okay for me to feel this way? I think we ask that question when somebody that we care about disagrees with us, if that makes sense.
So when there's a disagreement with someone that we care about, it's more challenging because you have to ask yourself, you have to like stay with it and ask yourself, what's the difference of how you see it versus how they do? Whereas with a stranger, you don't have to stay with that, I think, is the difference. Is that what you're saying, or was it slightly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing, so I'm conscious of time, just want to make that other point, that it might not necessarily be, even though we're family, and I'm probably thinking more about family than friends here, just because we're family doesn't mean we will always agree on things. And very often we might have very different views or very different personalities to people in our families. And again, that I think that can sometimes cause contention and get in the way of empathizing with the people that we love. I think, again, like I said earlier, I think it all comes down to agreement. It's really easy to empathize with somebody when you agree with them. Not so easy if you don't.
So I hear you emphasizing the agreement factor. If you agree with someone, it's easier to empathize. And I also hear you saying that within your family, it can be very hard because there's different personalities and different perspectives.
Yeah, I think that's there's a desire, as human beings, we're primed to connect. We want to connect, and I think we will connect to friends, and we will seek out friends, and we'll find people, we'll find our tribe. But your family is the tribe that you're born into, and sometimes you don't connect with them. and again, speaking to the self-concept, the self-esteem level, I think if you're somebody who feels like you don't connect with your family, you question who you are, and you feel odd rather than different. So I think that's where the disconnect or the discomfort comes from.
Yeah. So I hear you saying that it's very challenging to connect with family, and that when you don't connect with family, it could cause you to question yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. More eloquently put than I put it, Rick. So thank you very much. I feel heard.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more, Rick, if you want
to. Okay. Milan, would you be my listener, please?
Yes, I'm listening.
Thank you. I definitely, well, I resonate with what Edwin said in terms of like, it's much easier when there are agreements in how we're just going to connect, as we're doing here. Like for me, it can be easier to empathize with a stranger even when that kind of agreement is there. Then people in my own family sometimes, or maybe people I somewhat agree with, but we're not in a agreement around how we're gonna connect. So for me, it's the agreement of how we connect that is the big factor, at least in my experience. Makes it easier for me.
Would you mind repeating the first part, just because there was a new person coming in the circle?
Right.
It kind of distracted me. I'm
Right.
sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm just saying that the agreement of how we're going to approach things, like in an empathy circle, makes it much easier for me to empathize with just about anybody. And it can be harder to empathize with people who I'm closer to in my family, you know. Even though those people could be of any different tribe, as long as the agreement is there, it makes it much easier for me to honor that person's experience.
Yeah, so what I'm listening is you're recognizing that when there is an agreement, it is easier to empathize with other, independent of their tribe. And an example that you can see is just this empathy circle, where we have an agreement to one another. And so that's why it's easier to empathize with one another.
Yeah, and also when, I think it gets harder when the different viewpoints clash in such a way that, like, for example, I was involved in a vision quest process with an indigenous community, and they do sweat lodges and sing, and not very into masks, you know, during coronavirus. And, you know, I got, my family members didn't like that I was there, you know, because they thought I was potentially endangering my mother. So that's really, at least for me, that's what's challenging in the family dynamic, and maybe in other dynamics, is when it's like when you can empathize, but you can't, I don't know, both sides can't sort of agree. You know what I mean? You kind of have to agree to disagree or something like that. And that's a challenge that I've faced in the last few months, at least, in terms of internal family differences.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that what's coming up for you is, for an example of an event where you have been participating into a community event where people were not quite wearing masks, and that actually concern your family members. And in that kind of situation, you saw how there was a conflict between agreement and empathy. And that's what you are recognizing it right now.
Yeah, that's what the challenge is, I think. But I also think at the same time, these kind of circles work, and the more, and other processes too, and the more we can just get people to agree to try them, and, you know, the better our society can be, I think.
Yeah, so you are recognizing that challenge, and you are identifying that how this empathy circle as a tool, it could serve as providing a safe and agreeable environment to practice empathy listening. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And I'm looking at the recording, and I'm just imagining Joe Biden somewhere. And I don't know. We could do things on our own, but to me, it would be beautiful if they just said, you know, this day of the month, everyone gather, empathy circle celebration. You know, we're gonna heal each other. So I'll just leave that there.
Yeah. So so you're feeling that it'll be wonderful if Biden actually comes out and says that there will be this day where everyone will be joining the empathy circle. That would really influence our society to incorporate empathic listening.
Yeah, that would be.
That was a time too. We need to just wrap. So Nilang, do you want to just say how was that for facilitation, and then you can get feedback from us.
Yeah, from facilitation point of view, I think the biggest challenge is when someone is in a flow of sharing, you are also riding the same wave, and it's hard to find a time point to intervene and say your time is off. It feels rude, it feels insulting, and it feels violating the very purpose of empathic listening. So I don't know where is the right boundary over there.
Mm. So you open for feedback from
so that was my challenge, and that was my experience. Okay. So I'm open for feedback. Yeah.
Oh, well, I can start. So I did notice that you were going over time, and I know there's two things. One is there's people's flow, but then there's the other thing is people sense that other people are getting more time, and then they start feeling like, hey, this is not fair. See, so there's a sort of a, so that's why I'm pretty, you know, I have the little signs that I do. So, you know, with just putting up a time sign, so I try to be, you know, pretty accurate in terms of time for the fairness aspect that people can kind of wrap up, and so yeah, that's the thing that came to me. I know it's hard. I know it. Sometimes I do that too. There's a little bit, you know, I give a little bit extra because they're so deep in the flow. But then everybody's got their time, wants their time too. At least, yeah. So it's tough.
I think the holding a sign is really good idea. So I'll definitely prepare for that. Neil, Rick, do you have any feedback?
I'll give you some feedback, Neeling. So I thought your setup instructions were really, really good. I was jealous of them. I thought they were great. So yeah, really succinct, really clear in terms of what was expected of everybody around the circle. So that was great. I feel your pain with the time situation, because when someone's sharing, and particularly if someone if you're getting the vibe or the sense from that person that they need to share this, it must be really, really hard. And I guess that probably a lesson that I will take from that is maybe just I think there's potentially something that you could do in the setup around that, to just say, to just be really clear that we've got a time limit on there for fairness. It's not to be rude or to cut anybody off. The time limit is there to make sure that everybody gets an equal chance to be heard. So, and if everybody in the circle has agreed to that and bought into that, then that might minimize anyone taking offense if we have to say, I'm going to have to call time on that there, because they know why you're doing it, but we've all agreed up front that that's what we're doing. So, but other than that, I thought you did great, really good, well done.
Yeah, great feedback, Neil. I really appreciate the feedback of really like explaining that why we have a time restriction in Empathy Circle, so no one take it offensively. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I just want to say I thought you did great. It was very smooth. So I don't have any other feedback.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just add about you hear someone who is speaking and that you feel, oh, they really need to be heard. But then I found that actually other people needed it as well too, that you don't really notice it. And I've done that where I give someone extra time, and then it turns out that the other person actually under the surface, they really needed it too. So those are some of the tensions, to deal with. It was really nicely, I really appreciate that, saying up front, explaining, that what Neil was saying, that's good to really set the expectations. Okay, so we're set for the next one. I guess, Rick, you're up for 25 minutes.
Is it possible to get a 1-minute break to use the bathroom?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I just had to rush off too for the head emergency.
I might just do that too, actually.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, everyone else took the opportunity too.
What do you do, Edwin, with your gallery? I'm just curious. Like, do you see yourself right now, or do you just?
I do. Yeah, I use gallery view. How about you?
Sometimes it's gallery view, and sometimes I'd rather not see myself. Sometimes it feels, I don't know. Depends how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I have that too. It's like, oh, I don't want to see myself. I have trouble going back and seeing videos of myself, recording. Somehow here it doesn't bother me so much. Sometimes I kind of speak to myself. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So thank you all for coming to this Empathy Circle, and I hope you received the information, our agreements. I want to invite you to take a breath with me and get centered, and just actually we'll breathe in and we'll hold it and we'll let out a sound. Would you guys be willing to do that?
Sure.
So we go in. And one more. Does anyone have a sound they need to let out that hasn't been let out?
Probably not for not for public ears.
Okay. Yes, I like to remind a little bit of that and a little bit of self-empathy, because of course we can't be empathetic to other people unless we're giving self-love. So I try to start with a reminder of that. And what we're going to be doing, of course, is we'll have 4 roles. One will be the active speaker, and one will be the active listener, and then we'll have 2 passive listeners. And the beauty of this is that we'll each have the same amount of time to speak. So there's the active speaker gets, in this case, 3 minutes to say whatever's on your mind, whatever you're feeling. You can answer the question that we're focusing on, or you can go into what you're actually experiencing. And if you want to take silence, you're free to take that time for silence. If you want to pass, you can also pass. And as the speaker, what's helpful is if you can speak in short chunks. So try not to go on a big soliloquy so that the listener has time to reflect back. So that's the speaker. And then the listener's role is to listen. Just give your attention and do the best to reflect back what you're hearing. Do the best you can not to add anything. And always check in with the person who's spoken. You can say something like, was this what you heard? Was what I said what you meant? You know, always just try to give them that space to be able to correct you if you misheard. So I feel like that's the best I can do for an opening. We'll go for 3 minutes each. And the topic will be what's on your mind during this time of ongoing virus, and in terms of the virus and in terms of whatever's on your mind for the political kind of situation. Is there any questions that you have about that? I might have been unclear about something. I do that sometimes. Okay. And is there anyone who would, and one more thing, when you get down to, we're getting 3 minutes each, and I'll hold this up when we get to 1 minute. So we'll try to keep in time so that everyone gets a chance. And is there anyone who would like to go first? Okay.
Can I go?
Yes, Lang, you just choose your listener, please, and then it'll be your time.
May I speak to Neil, please?
Yes, listening.
I think that's a really wonderful topic that we are participating about. What's coming up for the kind of a pandemic that we are in and the political situation. I feel that there has been a strong evidence on how our abuse of animal is associated with spreading pandemics like COVID-19. But still, the political leaders are somehow not recognizing that relationship and not addressing the topic of animal abuse, even for the public health. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, so what I'm hearing is wonderful topic, pandemics and politics. And actually something that's really resonating with you right now is the lack of connection that people are making between the abuse of animals and disease or pandemics, or potentially where they're coming from. And actually that there's perhaps a bit of frustration there that connection doesn't seem to be being made. Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that connection is not being made politically, means the political leaders. Also, I feel in our society as well, we feel that empathy is limited to fellow human beings, but we don't feel the same level of empathy towards other species. And we abuse them in the name of food, fashion, and many other applications. But we don't see that when we abuse them, it's our health and our well-being that gets impacted.
Okay, so yeah, just wanting to get some clarity there that actually it's political leaders and governments that perhaps aren't making this connection between abuse of animals and the detrimental effects that it's having. But actually also what I'm hearing is it's how there seems to be empathy seems more accessible to other human beings, but is perhaps less accessible or is less displayed towards other species. And actually it's that lack of empathy that perhaps means that leads us to, take the attitudes that we do around animals when it comes to food and fashion and of course the ongoing public health issue.
I feel heard. Thank you, Neil.
Okay, thank you. Edwin, will you listen to me, please?
Listening.
Yeah. I mean, it's I feel like I need to be careful what I say because I kind of do have opinions on politics, but I'm from the UK, so it's nowhere near as it's not going to impact me anywhere near as much as it might impact you, Edwin, or you, Rick, or actually you, Neil. And I don't know how connected you are to American politics. I'm making an assumption there that you're not, because you're not from America. And actually, I think anyone that feels that sense of connectedness with the world will have felt connected to what's happening politically in America. And actually, I have felt connected politically to what's happening in America.
Yes, I'm hearing you're wanting to be sort of cautious about what you talk about. You want to talk about politics. You want to be careful about it. And it's about, sounds like you have a sense of connection with what's been happening in America.
Yeah, and perhaps I'm wrongly assuming that my connection is less important than anybody else's, but actually my connection is my connection. And yeah, I personally, and I don't know how other people feel on the call, I was pleased about Biden winning. I wasn't happy about Trump getting in the first place. And just what was so amazing was just seeing that banner behind Joe and behind Kamala as well. And so the people have chose empathy. And I have to say, I watched Joe's speech and I cried. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're very touched and moved and happy about Biden winning, and especially with seeing this big banner that people have chosen empathy. You're moved so much that you actually cried.
I did, and I didn't like sob, but I was watching it, and I did feel that sort of swelling of emotion. And I'm not stupid. I know that these people have speech writers, and I know that these people are trained to say this stuff. But I really did think afterwards, and I actually posted something on social media afterwards, that actually, if he lives up to even half of what he's talking about in what he said in his speech, America may well be great again.
Mm-hmm. So you're realizing that he has speech writers, people who write this, but if he just does half of what he's sort of saying, that maybe it'll make America great again.
Yeah. Thank you, Edwin. I feel heard.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll speak to Rick then. Yeah, in terms of the politics, I'm like super laser focused on the value of empathy. So just to see empathy in those big banners on the wall there, it says people have chosen empathy. It was like one of the first values. It was the first value mentioned of a series. And then when Kamala Harris came onto the podium, it was held there. So it's just the centrality of that was pretty cool.
So you are laser focused on empathy, and the fact that empathy was front and center, right in the back, while they were giving their speech was really great for you.
Yeah. And I posted that, I kind of made some little clips of it and put Biden's, quote in there, and about empathy matters, compassion matters. I'm going to heal the country, or try to heal. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I posted that, and I would say 9 out of the 10 of the responses were, "Oh yeah, politicians." They say, it's like this is skepticism. The skepticism was huge, about it was.
So you posted about the empathy being included in this way, and 9 out of 10 of people's responses were skepticism towards politicians just saying words.
Yeah, and I'm skeptical too, because Obama was like even more promoting empathy than Biden. I mean, he was eloquently speaking about it, and I just feel that he just failed at it. It's like it was actually his failure of really bringing in the empathy movement, actually bringing it in, what we're doing, was what led to Trump. So I give him a fair amount of responsibility for that.
Okay. So yeah, I hear that you're saying Obama was you're also skeptical, because Obama was even more eloquent and spoke more beautifully about empathy, but you feel that he didn't take action and put it front and center, and you feel like that by him not doing that, it's what caused the Trumpism to rise.
Yeah. So I think that we need our own movement, what we're doing here, that we need to push this into the political sphere, to make it happen. So they might not do it, but they're saying they're for it. And so we need to kind of push what we're doing into that sphere. And I feel heard once you reflect.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes, you feel that it's our job to push it into the political sphere, that we can't wait for them to do it. Thank you. And Neil, would you be my listener?
Listening.
Okay. It's interesting to hear everyone's comments and also attempt to facilitate. Yeah, I guess, so I feel some relief that Biden got in. I think I would be in horrible shape if he did not. I would find that very hard to deal with. And yet, I don't feel totally at ease or rejoicing or dancing in the streets or anything like that. I feel like I'm sort of bracing for, something to come, maybe. Or maybe it's just trauma, my own trauma kind of coming up or something. So I'll pause there.
So yeah, I'm sensing that there's some relief for what's happened, but there's a sense that there's not out of the woods yet potentially, and there's just maybe it's skepticism a little bit, but actually it could just be the remnants of some of the trauma that you felt for. I'm not actually sure what the trauma was for, but I got the sense that there's some trauma there that's residual, and it's potentially affecting how you feel right now.
Yeah, I guess I should put a caveat there that I think the human species is traumatized as a whole, but I also feel that I have my own stuff that comes up, and yeah, just not really feeling totally like we're out of the woods or whatever you call it. Like there might be some incidents before we get there.
Okay, so
I'm not concerned. That's one.
Okay, so yeah, so there's just nice to get the clarity there that actually there's a belief from you that the human race, the human species, is actually traumatized at the moment, and just adding that caveat there that there's potentially perhaps a bit of fear that other incidents may well still occur.
Yeah. So I'm good. Thank you. I feel very.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Rick. Nilang, will you listen to me, please?
Yes, I'm listening.
Thank you. Yeah, just I guess going on from what I said, and then what Edwin said and what Rick said, is that there still seems to be skepticism that hangs over us about all of these things, and that makes me sad. It really does, because I know where the skepticism comes from. It comes from the fact that we've just been let down so many times, and there's a real excuse me. There's a real internal battle between wanting to think positive and wanting to believe that things are going to be different, but also protecting ourselves because we've been there before and we've been let down.
Yeah, so you're processing what already has been shared in the circle about the skepticism on how well the empathy will be centered in Biden's new presidency, and you feel that skepticism is sad, but you're also recognizing that within yourself there's a battle, or I should say within ourselves, you are recognizing this battle where we want to be optimistic and we want to believe something, but we have been let down so many times, and so that's why we are also skeptical. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I get very, there's a self-preservation element to it, because I absolutely believe that the energy that I put out into the universe shapes the universe, and I can only control the energy that I put out there. Well, or I can control it. It might be influenced by others, and I really want to put the right energy out there. I want to believe that what Biden says is going to happen is going to make a difference. I want to believe that, that having the first, female Black and of Indian descent vice president, is a massive step forward, and will yield just a renewed sense of hope and diversity. I really, really want to believe all that stuff, and I want to put that out into the universe. But I also don't want to be disappointed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you strongly believe that the kind of energy that you put out in the world, that's manifest. And so you want to put out the best and a positive energy outside, because we have a female leader with the Black and Indian descent, and you want to believe that that things gonna be better in the future, and that's the kind of energy you want to put out in the world. Is that correct?
Yes, and I will caveat that with it is the kind of energy I'm going to put out in the world, and I'll free fall with whatever happens, because actually that's my stance. Regardless, the energy I'm going to put out into the world is this is a good thing, and I really believe we have an opportunity here to make things better.
So you're recognizing that we have a really good opportunity to make things better, and that's the kind of energy that you want to put out there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Neil. I feel very heard.
Okay, so we can take.
Thank you for sharing, Neil.
We can do a break. We can just give feedback now. How do you want to just share how was that, Rick, and get feedback from us?
Sure. For me, how was that? I think I did okay. Considering where I'm at today, I think I did okay. Yeah, I'm just aware of the challenge of keeping the time and being engaged. And in this situation, it's fine because we're all sort of facilitating. But in other situations, I know it can get messy. And especially if you have two people with opposing views, like I just find myself being aware of that.
Well, I'll go if you're wanting some feedback. I really liked the bodily sensation and the sound. It was like kind of got me into my body, and it seemed like it sort of opened up more of a feeling space. And so when you were sort of explaining I felt like I was in a deeper space to hear what you were saying. So yeah, I really kind of getting into my breath, and I felt kind of more grounded. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that.
Thank you. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, I'll second that, Rick. I really like that, and I think it's something that I will definitely be stealing from you. I just think it's great to ground people, and I really felt this, and you know, I do practice mindfulness, so I probably do it by proxy now. When I take a big deep out breath, I release all kinds of crap. So, but I think it's a good opportunity to actually say to people, you know, actually let's just in that out breath, let go of anything that's not going to serve you for the next 25 minutes and be fully present. And that's what it did for me. So I really enjoyed that. And at the risk of sounding patronizing, I just from what you said to us, that actually there's a lot going on for you right now. I also think you did really well considering what's going on for you right now. So
thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with all of them that the idea of centering everyone before even participating in Empathy Circle was just great. And I'll definitely be stealing that as well. But I also feel that you have done a really good job with keeping a time, because I know that I actually screwed up that part. So it's something that I also need to learn from that. But you have done an amazing job with organizing and facilitating the Empathy Circle. And I love the topic as well. Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, any final thoughts, Rick?
It just feels good to hear that some of the stuff I did worked. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, good. So we've got about 9 minutes, so we can just open up the floor. Any kind of thoughts, you know, about the facilitation, just, you know, popcorn. I could, you know, with the Empathy Circle, I've kind of streamed, you know, gotten it down to the minimal, you know, viable process, you know, and it can always be built on. And one of the things I had done previously was that we would have a round of kind of a check-in, how are you feeling? And you turn that into emotion, like, oh, I'm feeling kind of growing, and everybody would mirror it. So if you want to try that, yeah, mirroring. So and then and you check, does everybody you keep going until everybody gets it, right? So that was the way, especially since we're sitting so much. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, I feel heard, and then the next person goes. So, you know, adding those layers like you're doing, like the physicality stuff and the mindfulness and some exercise like that can really get people into their body. Yeah.
I love that, Edwin. I love that there's some flexibility within, because like you say, the structure is important, and everybody agreeing to that structure is really important, because I think that is what gives you the best chance of success. But it's nice to see that there is some room to be a bit more playful in that as we build in confidence, as our confidence grows. Yeah.
Yeah, I've experimented with that, and I think that for me, that is something that I like to do. I've done call and response. I've given people opportunities to sing or do poetry, to choose, to have some choices on the table during their turn, you know. I've also done silent gratitude, where we go around one by one and just silently give gratitude to one individual at a time. And that could have an energetic shift too. I guess that kind of stuff is really interesting to me, how to weave in different playful mind awareness, body awareness things, and still keep the structure in some way.
Yeah, I'll definitely look forward to doing more of that, I think, as my confidence in this particular structure grows. I really enjoy it.
Well, I do see it as sort of a foundational practice that we can innovate on top of it. Like I've thought of, you know, things that could be perhaps added would be when it's your turn to speak, you say, first you start by saying, what is it that you feel like, and turning it into emotion, you get a reflection from everyone, and then you speak to the listener as a way of getting into the body, you know. So there's a lot of things that can be added. But those kind of things I have found that, you know, if some people just, at first, they just feel uncomfortable with it. So I kind of strip all that out. But, you know, once people have done it a few times, get comfortable with each other, to add some of those more physical activities.
Yeah, I think thinking about that, that's a great way, I think, to start building emotional literacy as well. I think a lot of the people that I work with, and particularly when I'm working with young people, they haven't developed a vocabulary around emotions and feelings yet. So some of the work that we're doing is about helping them to start to build that vocabulary. And actually doing that would be a really nice way to integrate some emotional literacy work with an empathy circle as well. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, like it.
Okay, just broadcast. We got 5 minutes. So anything that's on your mind, any thoughts, questions, insights? Was it helpful to practice, do you think? Is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not sure it was helpful to go first, but but no, it was really useful, really useful.
Yeah, it was really helpful, and helpful in a way that how Neil and Reed, they both had like extra stuff that I never actually thought about, and now I can actually steal it from them. So yeah, it was really helpful, even not just practicing by ourselves, but seeing others to actually practice and see what parts you're missing.
So next time we'll be starting with some challenge. You can add challenges. Is there anything you imagine being a challenge or have had challenges with?
I think I had a challenge. It's about keeping the time and helping other people kind of like be mindful of time. So that's a kind of a challenge that I feel like I always face, and including today.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think you know, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we'll face, especially if someone's really in a flow, and if there's emotion behind that as well, whether it be anger or sadness or whatever that might be. You know, breaking that flow might feel quite challenging to do as a facilitator. I think the other thing for me as well would be if you have got people that you can clearly, I mean, we took a chance, I guess, talking about politics just now, didn't we? Because I don't know the political standpoint of anybody around this table. I mean, I'm saying, yes, I'm all for Biden. There could have been Trump supporters around the table. And I think it's just, it's knowing that could be something that you end up dealing with, that you've got two very, very different opinions around the table. So.
Yeah, for me, what comes up is, there's the time thing, of course, but then there's like if someone was adding on stuff in their reflection, how do you, as a facilitator, gently intervene without throwing it off kilter, you know, making that person feel too self-conscious or something like that. And then also, yeah, like, what if it was I would like to do left-right political empathy circles, and so I think about that as well. What if someone kind of goes off on a, you know what I mean, on some of the information they have, and someone else gets sort of triggered by that. So those are the things, the obstacles that I sense.
Are those the ones you imagine, or have you had those challenges, Rick?
What's that?
Are those challenges that you imagine having, or that you've actually had? Have you been in circles where some of those challenges came up, or?
I've been in circles where people are maybe adding on stuff, and I usually just kind of let it go because I don't want to interfere. You know, depending on where they're at with learning the process, I sometimes, you know, so that's something I've had. And the other one, left-right politics, I've done sort of preliminary interviews with people to get them in to a circle and kind of dealt with their concerns, but I haven't actually done a circle.
Something I've experienced in a circle is somebody who has completely disregarded the topic and used the circle purely to advance their own agenda in a way that does not support what we're trying to do or achieve in any way. And I experienced that as a fellow participant in the circle. I just thought, as it was happening, I was thinking, oh, how on earth would I facilitate this? Because yeah, it was winding me up, so it must have been winding the facilitator up as well.
Okay, I guess it's me. We're waiting for, I guess, is everybody back? Yeah, I guess everybody's back. Okay, all right, so we will do a short debrief, and this will be a reflection on your experience, maybe some questions or concerns coming up. Essentially, this is the general model for our next two classes or sessions, however we want to refer to them. But then there'll be some challenges and things like that that people can ask for. So anyway, I'll go around again for time, looking at my screen. And okay, so Rick, so essentially it's, how is the experience? Questions, concerns, or strengths you came up
with? The experience was good. I was feeling anxiety earlier, and doing the circles calmed me down. And it's good to it's good to see how other people approach it and learn from them, and then get to do it on your own. It feels like a good exercise.
Great, thanks, Rick. Nilan?
Yeah, it was really good learning experience. And thanks to Edwin, Rick, and Neil. I always struggle to kind of keep a time restriction or make people be more aware of the time limit that they have when they speak. So that's the kind of thing that I was struggling with, and I had a really good tips that now I'll be incorporating. I also learned how centering everyone in the beginning of the empathy circle would also be helpful. So there are things that I actually learned, and then thanks to everyone who participated into the circle and allowing me to facilitate the empathy circle. So yeah, excited to learn even more.
Great, great. Look forward to it. Jamie.
So I was appreciative of the learning. I think that my group was very inviting and had very good feedback for ways to be better and learning from one another. And I liked the topics that we had used and the conversations that we were having. So I was appreciative today.
Thank you, Jamie. Anita? You're muted.
Yeah, two appreciations. One, I felt like I was in really good hands, or we were in really good hands with the trainer. Lou provided a lot of really great feedback based on his experience. I appreciated that. I also just feel a super big dose of gratitude that a group of us and other cohorts before us and cohorts afterwards are investing time to do this. Like it just so heartens me. So that's my share.
Thank you, Anita. Okay. Karen.
Yeah, I think just reflecting really what everyone else has said, such good learning, and having that opportunity to practice was really valuable, and seeing how other people do it was brilliant. The point that Anita made about Lou, I feel I want to say about Bill as well. It was really good. His experience that he brought to bear was really useful, and it felt, yeah, very like a really safe space and great topics. I just wanted to go on and on with the topics. It was really stimulating and yeah, great fun. So thank you, team.
Thank you, Karen. Rosa.
Group, we had brilliant topics and it was too short, and I think we could have continued for much longer. And it was just really helpful learning from each other, and also from Anne, who gave us just practical tips, like there was one time when we did a round and someone wasn't included, and just practical tips of having a notepad and writing down who's been the listener and who's been the speaker. And yeah, really simple things that we'll pick up as we go, but it would also make our initial experience in facilitation much easier, that we were picking up these tips early on. So thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Ben?
Yeah, thanks. I agree with everything, and really useful so to see people's different approaches, and also people's experience, and what is kind of emphasized in the empathy cycling process over time. Which are the important bits for different people in different situations, and I think it's a bit different for like the quality of attention facilitating, I guess. For me at the moment is like just slightly different. So it's a kind of a slightly different space than just simply being in a kind of facilitated circle. Yeah, a lot of appreciation and kind of an appetite for doing this more and seeing this more and kind of building this. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Zainab?
I had come into this feeling a bit nervous, and I was kind of dreading the entire thing in terms of holding space at like early in the morning, but it was, to my pleasure, it was easier than I thought. It felt quite natural. I mean, there was a little bit of balancing that needed to be done to listen and manage time, etc. But it just, I mean, maybe it was also the group, but I really managed to ease into it. So I'm feeling quite good about myself at this point. I'm also feeling a little bit like I came out of like a warm bath or some kind of like spa treatment. Like it just feels really nice and light, and the quality of feeling that I'm having right now. And I mean, and yeah, I mean, a deep appreciation for Jamie Ann and Rosa for that. Even our topics were similar in terms of what we chose. So it just managed to kind of have a very nice flow. I've been in empathy circles with Lou and Edwin before, so I have a sense of like what their style was. But Anne was for me markedly different. I really appreciated the fact that she gave us like, a few seconds between sort of sprints to just stretch, and do this kind of like check-in in our feelings, so that we could like really literally bring the best versions of ourselves and the quality of listening into the conversation. And I really appreciate that. And she held a very strong sense of accountability to the group. Like, I don't know what, like a light touch facilitation, but very deep. It was that, and it was really, I mean, I think that's a great thing for me to learn from, and honestly the biggest thing I'm taking away from this conversation.
Great, thank you. Claudia.
Yeah, so thank you, Bill, as a great facilitator. Really appreciated that, and loved being with Karen and Dean and seeing different styles. What I noticed is that a topic that would generally be just like, I don't want to talk about this, can be so much more interesting when it's in an empathy circle, because it has a chance to go deeper and you can reflect on it rather than everyone, yeah, isn't that terrible? Yeah, politics sucks, blah, 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 blah. So this is another way to do it, and it allows you to go to a different place. What I learned mostly for myself is how nervous I get when I'm the active listener. And especially when I did it with Bill, because he had these deep, deep thoughts. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can reflect this back. So one is just how nervous I get to do that part. And yeah, I reflected that I'd seen Edwin do a difficult one, and I was so impressed by how he managed to maintain his center. And I clearly have a lot of work to do. And then the last thing is just because we were sometimes facilitator and sometimes as listener, I would sometimes get confused about which thing I was doing. So it's a little confusing, like, am I keeping track or so? But I love it. I totally love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Neil?
Yeah, wow. I mean, not much more to say than everybody else has. Just such a great opportunity to learn from other people. I mean, there are literally, I always see things that I can borrow from other facilitators, and Rick and Neil, I'm no exception. It was really great to see how they would do things and to pick up some great tips from them. And yeah, great topics, really good topic, and a couple of topics that I thought, I perhaps wasn't very brave with mine, and other people were braver. But you know what? Trust in the process, because actually, we covered some deep topics, but when the circle's there and you feel safe and nurtured, it really is safe to do. So I think addressing some of those topics today just has strengthened my faith in the process very much so.
Thank you, Neil. Dean?
I must say, even though people were facilitating for the first time in our circle, it didn't feel like it. Both of the ladies had a lighter touch than myself. And actually, I've learned a few tricks from them. It's good to to always see other facilitators, even if they're just novice facilitators, doing the process, because you learn. And if you're not learning, you're not listening. And the whole art of the empathy is to listen and to relax listening, not to be tense listening. And don't worry, Claudia, you will learn to relax in the role. I used to panic like mad. Oh, time. Oh, who's done what? Oh, panic. But then after like 4 or 5 goes, you go, well, I've done this before. Okay, right. So you will relax. And it's just practice. And the process is a wonderful process. And the people coming to learn the process are wonderful people. And thank you for your time and your honesty and your energy.
Thanks, team. Anne?
Yeah, for me, it was just, again, an absolute privilege to be in a room with 3 other people being themselves and bringing their own, like authentically being themselves in their introductions to the methods and their facilitation. It's just, we've got so much we can learn from each other, and I enjoyed learning from them and being part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Edwin?
Yeah, it's been mentioned before, but it's how we all learned from each other was just very, very rich. And for example, Rick started off with sort of a deep breath, connecting into our bodies, and I felt really good, got us really into our bodies. So kind of learned from everyone. Some of the challenges already started coming up. People were naming some of the challenges. So, what are those challenges? How to address them? So we're already kind of getting into those a little bit. And again, very interesting topics. It's just, it's great to hear this variety of topics come up. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Evan. Lou?
Yeah, I'm just really full. My heart is full and my soul feels fed. I really enjoyed getting to know Anita and Ben and learning together about empathy circle practice and introductions. And so I'm really happy, and I'm going to have a good rest of the day because I spent the morning this way. So I'm feeling very grateful for both of you.
Thanks, Lou. For myself, I would like to reflect that. I feel really grateful. I feel that the participants in my circle, both last week and this week, have given me as much or more than I give them. And so when I look at the world as a whole, I feel that there are other people who find that listening is important. And I think that's a basis for hope. So I'm very appreciative and grateful for that. So thank you all. Okay. Let's see, Lou, anything else that you would, or Edwin would, or Dean or Anne, anything else that you would like to add?
So anything about next steps, or do you mean?
Sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the
okay.
next. Okay. Do you want to do it, Edwin? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just mentioned that I'll be sending out an email with new empathy buddy lists where I'm trying to shift. So you have someone else between each week, and if you feel like you want to catch up with the person that maybe you missed the last one, you can do that too. So you have kind of double empathy buddy call, and again, it's the same issue of it's about facilitator support. You can see the benefits of having other facilitators to connect with and to share with, and if we have anxieties, it's really good to share those and just create a network and a community of fellow facilitators. So it's really good for that. And also I'll send in the email also to think about challenges, like what is, it came up in our group, we had about 4 or 5 different types of things, that challenges that you imagine or that you've actually experienced. And if you can sort of write those down, and maybe at the beginning of the next session, we'll maybe have a few, a little bit where you can just share those challenges that you're imagining. And there'll be also, if you can fill out the session survey. So I really appreciated those that filled out the one for last week. And it really helps us to go through and hear what you're thoughts or concerns are, so we can, you know, speak to those in the next session too. So I think that's it for me.
Okay, Lou, anything else, or anybody, Ann, or?
Yeah, I do have anything to add. Well, I would say this, that if you're feeling ready, or maybe almost ready, you might consider trying to pull together an empathy circle before the next session. You know, that's a way to deepen your learning, is to actually do one. And, you know, then you'll be bringing that experience into the next practice. So I mean, certainly I haven't worked with everyone yet, but I'm all the people that I have been in breakouts with, you know, I'd say you're ready to try. So so think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to just add real quick to that, was I had wanted to actually have that as an assignment, that between, I totally forgot, thanks Lou. And it's a good excuse, like if you're trying to do it with your family, it's like if you're just going to your family and say, hey, let's do an empathy circle, they'll say, what's that? That's kind of weird. But if you can say, I have this assignment that I have to do, can we just, you're really going to help me out by doing this empathy circle. So it's a really good sort of an excuse to do with a family or friends, say that it's an assignment you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Rosa.
It sounds like there were loads of interesting tips and ideas floating around, and I wonder if there's a way of collating these, because I wanted to be part of all the groups, and obviously that's not possible. So how we can capture all this knowledge.
Well, we're working on it. This is a work in progress, and I have to say that is Edwin's reason for existence. And I have to say that he's really shown some great leadership and is really working overtime to do that. I'm really, you know, personally impressed with that effort. It's a question of, there's so much information. How do we make it accessible, and how do we organize it so it's accessible? And so that's a work in progress, but we are trying to do that. And, you know, Edwin's really shown us the way, I'd say.
Just a quick comment. Oh, sorry. Just there's a blank page there for facilitator tips. I just put in there. It was that idea, and so I'm going to create a Google Doc, shared Google Doc, so you can go there and just kind of type in any tips as you sort of harvest it. So yeah, that's
already on the job. The man's an animal. All right. Okay. Anybody else? As we leave, Dean.
I'd just like to say I have used the empathy circle process in my family, and it opened up new vistas of communications and understanding between the people that you thought you knew already. Actually, in that circle process, they feel empowered to actually speak on a deeper level. So it's a wonderful process. Scary as hell at first, but it was well worth the investment of time and energy.
Great. Anne, anything else for you?
Just really appreciative of everybody, and look forward to next week. And just the amazing talent in this room is just astounding. And I'm so glad that you're all here with this kind of interest and hopefully commitment to empathy circles. It's just brilliant.
Great. All right. I want to note that we're actually ready to end a little early, so respectful of your time. And I'd want to also reflect that I'm really, really encouraged by everybody here and their work and their talents and things like that. I just want to, you know, add on to that. So we have next week, same place, same bat station. We will then go into the second, be ready for a little bit more challenge. And usually that creates a lot of humor and hijinks. So I hope you enjoy.
And we are planning to practice introductions again next time. So.
Okay, yes, and the introductions. Okay. If that's it, have a great rest of the day and week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.